Welcome to the Managing the Smart Mind podcast with your host, Coach Kramer. This is episode 58, Getting on Board with the amazing Claus Grandbang, part 2. Hey, smart human. This is the second installment of a really fun interview I had with Claus. And in this part, we talk about lots of different things like ChatGPT and what it means for us smart humans and how fun it can be to now become almost an expert in a topic, or at least a semi-expert in a very short amount of time. We talk about science fiction and what we can learn from the hypotheticals in there, about work-life balance, productivity tools, and rituals to kind of switch from working to relaxing. We dive into networking as a smart human who may not love working the room. And Claus also talks about what he learned from losing all his money and many, many more fascinating things. So enjoy part 2.
One of the interesting things, though, is that a different topic, but related, these generative AIs that has been popping up lately. I love them.
Same.
And mostly for the creative process, because it takes quickly care of the obvious ones.
Yeah.
And then it can start to spin me in different other directions. And that's one of the things which I've told my students that there's a lot of talk about this ChatGPT can answer, and I've told my students that I expect them to use it.
Good. I love that you're going here, because it's actually on my list of things to ask about, because I'm sort of virtually attending South by Southwest right now and actually watching lots of talks, right, on ChatGPT and where it's all going. Yeah. So I love that you're telling them to use it instead of like, no, I will penalize you.
Come on. Right now, it's a good version of Google.
Yeah. It's actually the talk I saw yesterday, and I wish I could remember his name. I'll put it in the show notes, but it's someone who used to write for Wired. And he said, this is the perfect intern.
Yeah.
Right? You just give it all those tasks, like research this, find that you would give to an intern. Yeah. And now you can give your intern something more interesting.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think what I told the students, say, hey, if you cannot lift yourself above what a chatbot can do, well, then you're not valuable in a couple of years.
Yes. And that's another point he made. He had some LinkedIn ads for prompt engineers, which I have now started to pop up as new jobs. And for those of you who are listening and thinking, what the hell? What is happening? So ChatGPT is something you have probably heard about. It's this interface where you can ask AI lots of stuff and you get really interesting answers back. Prompt engineering is asking it great questions, almost like you would do also as a coach, right? Yeah. And getting useful answers back. And the people who are able to do this, because this takes a lot of skill, can actually make a lot of money right now. Like, 150K, 200K jobs.
Well, do you know that there is even a marketplace for prompts?
Yes.
So you can actually, if you have done a good prompt that gives a really good image, you can actually sell that prompt to someone else.
Exactly. And one of the many things I love about this, I mean, there's so much I love, but I think this is where we as smart humans, right, the way we're wired, the way our brain works, this is where we can make a massive difference, because we're so used at thinking about things at a meta level and asking the bigger questions and knowing how to figure something out. And we can now start using that skill as a superpower.
And the great thing about it is that we're so interested in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And to give you an example, one of the fields within analytics is data engineering. And
what is data engineering?
Yeah, I didn't really know.
In a nutshell.
But I heard about it, and then I went to the chatbot and said, hey, what is data engineering? And it gave me some examples, and then I thought, okay, tell me more about this and this and this. And within half an hour, I got the understanding, okay, this is the guy who figures out the source system where all the information is in the company and outside, and takes the technical wiring and fits that into the data lake, or the wherever you have all your information stored, so that someone else can analyze on it. So all the wiring behind the scenes, that's
like
the data engineering, all the information logistics, you could say. And I tried before to look into it because I knew it was something that I need to get a little bit of knowledge about. But then finding a blog post, you don't really know whether that is correct. And then you find maybe an article, and the time spent to get to that minimum knowledge that I needed was so immense that I just gave up before. But here, half an hour. Yes, check. I know what I need to know, and then I can move on.
This is so perfect for us because I agree. We're interested in so many different subjects, and one of our superpowers is sort of connecting the different fields and the different disciplines. And this is going to make it so much easier and so much faster. And we'll still go down rabbit holes, of course, but it will be much faster.
We'll dig much more quickly down. Okay, no, but it's also quick to get up.
Yes, 100%.
And that's also what I see that I do. I connect these different dots from different fields. Like if I go back to the HAL teaching methodology, it's Scrum from software development methodologies over there. Which is underlying it. It is these adaptive things where you depending on which route you take through a learning, it adapts to your which is a little bit boring, but it's some of those things there, and it's from your regular learning psychology and cognitive biases. That is also psychology, learning, and software development fields merged together and creating something which is
having this baby, basically.
And I think that's what we do, and that's where we make a difference.
Yes, and where we play and have so much fun, right?
Yeah. Well,
so I'm getting a pretty good inkling of how you keep it fun, but could you speak a bit more to that? How do you keep things interesting for you with your smart mind? Like, of course, diving into ChatGPT, setting things on fire. What else?
No, I speak to people. I love getting different perspectives. It's also just last week I was in Lille in France and teaching some classes there. In many ways, not a good way of doing stuff, but because travel and time and all those kind of things. But meeting new, different people that you would otherwise never meet. Talking to the guy next to you on the train. What is it that they're doing? Why is it that they're doing? What is it that makes them tick? That's super, super interesting, I think.
So you are actually constantly gathering data, right?
100% of the time. I'm also part of different networks where you get connected up with some fantastic people like you.
That's how we met, right?
That's how we met. Yes. And where you meet these different people around the world. I go out, and I think talking to you, I spent some time and just chit-chatting there. And what more?
Do you even ever get bored?
No. And what about there's one more thing. One more thing.
Go ahead.
No, I don't have it here. I have my Kindle.
Yes.
When I'm so to speak zooming down, I read a lot of sci-fi, approximately a book a week. So 300-400 pages per week. And I it zooms me out.
As if you get a bigger picture, or how
no, actually, I get away from day-to-day structure thing, but also a bigger picture. And I love the sci-fi where it's a different society because of something has happened, and you take one wheel in the society and then you just turn it, and you take the effects from that and see, okay, what could then happen, and especially the interaction between people when those kind of things has changed.
So basically a massive hypothetical that you completely play out, right? Possible worlds.
Yeah, exactly. That and that's where I think I zoom out. The rest of the time, new information, as you say, data processing, data gathering all the time, new field. I have the radio running with the 24/7 news stories. Ask me any of the news for the days. It's I know I'm not that much into football, but I can still have an hour conversation about the latest football results.
Incredible. Tell me a bit about how you collaborate with other people, because for some smart humans that can be quite challenging, right? Because they feel like either people aren't invested enough, or it's going too slow, or they don't get what they're trying to get them to do, or etc. How do you navigate that?
One of the benefits of being in academia is that it's reasonably smart people for the most part.
Right. So you have it easy.
So that way I have it easy. However, I think it's more the other way around, that people have a chance working with me.
Ah, good. Self-awareness. I like it. So what is hard about
they've also told me. So it's not even that necessary. No, because I come up with ideas all the time. New ideas, more things we do, and go and do. I tell people initially when I have to work with them, okay, I will come with a lot of things, a lot of ideas. If you don't want to run with it, if you don't think it's interesting, if you don't think it's something we should do, just don't. I'm not going to be mad or angry or annoyed in any way, because I will most likely have forgotten about it when I've finished the sentence.
ADHD brain explained, right? Like I'm just gonna share like 100 ideas. I can't even remember what I just said.
Yeah. So and especially that has been a challenge for the administration people that I've been working with, because I just said, but you told me that we should do this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And yes, of course we should, but not necessarily now. And maybe not even those things, but maybe something else. But don't worry about it. We will make whatever we make, and I'll be happy about whatever we make.
So what do you still find challenging? Where do you want to grow?
No, I don't want to grow. No.
This is where we had the interview.
I think one of the things that I'm looking into these days is that getting broader out with I was first in business for 10 years, and now I've been in academia for 10 years. I think it's probably time where I do some more interaction with more different people again. So
out of the academia bubble, basically.
Yeah, that's also why I'm writing this book, because we've talked so much about data being in the companies, and we should be, data is the new oil, and things like that. And then we get the analyst in the company, but it's still not. You still have metrics that says that more than 80% of analytics projects fail to deliver value.
Oh,
yeah, and it's not cheap projects. It's like a couple of €100,000 upwards for things like that. So it's a massive money sink, and that's why I was thinking, okay, why is it that we do the analytics? It's because we want to make some decisions on it. So bridging that gap there between the analytics and the decisions is something which I'm curious about and want to go out and explore with companies. So
more consulting.
Over in that direction there, but still, I do love the look in the eye of the student when they realize something. So I don't think I can really let it go, that part of it, but building on top of things.
So that's another great thing, I think, which is getting easier and easier. Like 20 years ago, it was almost impossible, or at least people thought it was impossible to do many different things. And right now we can just stack things and layer them and have so many things to keep our brains engaged and energized, and also to add value to the other fields that we're active in, right? So the work you're going to do teaching the students is going to inform the consulting, and vice versa. The person you talk to on the train, right, will give you this one gem of insight that you can then use again. As there's like so much useful stuff everywhere if you're willing to see it.
Yeah, exactly. And well, I've also, as I mentioned, I teach every year a small course in France, and I have teaching a summer school in Canada on social media analytics. So also moving out there, the international perspective, which has, of course, with COVID and all these things, been closed down quite a bit. So getting these experiences, cultural experiences as well, because, well, that's feeding the brain.
Exactly. And listen, I have another question I forgot to ask just now. How do you approach things like networking, where, I mean, you're not a mathematics professor, so maybe it's easier, right? But when you come to a networking event, or when you meet people and you say, yeah, I do data, and they're in very different fields.
I usually stand over in the corner with a beer, then I take a glass of wine, and then I hopefully find someone with some red shoes or something like that. And
so how do you build your network as someone who sounds like a bit of an introvert?
I think it's a lot about I'm looking for information. I'm generally curious about people. I think they can, if you, and sometimes I come away having spoken to someone and I realize I've not said anything at all about myself. Hopefully they have remembered. I bought some shoes with yellow soles to to be memorable in some way, but no. But most of the time it's just the guy I'm sitting next to in some event. I'm really not that guy who walks around, but over
you're not working the room.
No, and the funny thing is that I just spoke to a colleague today, and he said, "Oh, Claus, you're so good at network. You have such a great network of all these kind of people." And I was, yeah, but I think I also use for when there are an excuse. Hey, I have some students who need a project. Maybe your company is there. So I to some extent take myself a little bit out of the
you
equation.
find the perfect excuse to reach out to interesting people.
yeah, I use those excuses to reach out.
Yeah.
And then I think I started posting on LinkedIn that YouTube videos that I sent out. So in that way that I'm creating this content, and I can see that it's slowly starting that people get in touch with me.
Right. They find you.
They're starting to find me, and instead of me reaching. Actually, going back all the way, one of the things that I didn't realize about moving abroad and moving back home again was that it destroys your network.
That is a good point.
And it was fantastic being abroad. I would never have been without it, but I had not realized what it did in terms of a professional network moving backwards. It was that I came back and had to start almost from scratch. There is, of course, a handful of friends like that you keep in touch with, but everything from scratch. That was a tough realization.
That you had to rebuild everything, basically.
Everything and from scratch. And because you're not a starting career person, there is these formalized structures, networks, expectations of that. Okay, the newly graduate, you will offer him a cup of coffee. No, you have 6, 7, 8 years of experience already.
Exactly. Why would I help you?
Why should I help you? You can do it yourself. But you actually, I think that's.
But you figured it out.
I burned all my money. Yeah,
and you burned all your money. I want to switch to something slightly different. I'm always curious, what tools, if any, people use. Like, for example, you can't even call it a tool, but I have different desks for different activities, and also so my brain sees the thing I'm supposed to be working on, because otherwise it doesn't exist, right? And I love, when we talk about apps, I love the Headspace meditation app, for example. It's a lifesaver for me. So what do you have, use, love?
I do have on my desk, if of course depending on how busy I am, but I put a small post-it on my desk in the morning, just jot down 3, maximum 4 things that I need to get done, and usually I'll make 1 or 2 of them.
Good.
But being just a post-it and throwing it away at the end of the day, no matter if I've done it or not. I think that's more or less.
That's very interesting. I mean, it's almost like ritualistic in a way, like saying to your system, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
Right? Many people lack, I think, a good transition into not working, and they just keep in sort of work modus. They stay in there and their brain never turns off, and they just get exhausted and burn out eventually. And this is like just taking the post-it and throwing it away is like this signal, hey, we're done.
I rarely check work email and those kind of things outside working hours. I think that's probably been one of the things that I had to work consciously with, starting to work a lot from home. When I worked and was teaching primarily on campus, I had to drive back and forth, and that
makes it easier.
Makes it so much easier. Now I just have to go a 1.5 meters and open the door that I'm off work. So I think that's I needed to get some ritual around that transition.
I love that. What about hobbies? What do you do, like non-work related stuff? Reading science fiction?
And I have a guitar hanging just over here, which I almost every day pick up, and especially with the daughter, who's 7, and she comes up with a song, and then I just try to improvise some chords.
That's beautiful.
That's a quite regular ritual for us. I got a dog about a year ago, a sharing dog, which means that it's 1 week with us and 1 week with a colleague.
That is so smart.
And it works perfectly because, as you imagine, whenever you have to do something, it's taken care of.
Exactly.
Holidays.
You can go on vacation. It's not a
exactly.
problem.
Not a problem. So walking with that, I really enjoy, just to get the space, fresh air there. I think that's, and then as a big boys, we like to play and chat and talk a lot about what they do. Well, I have to say, the old one who's 20 now, yes, we talk a lot. The small girl, yes, the 16-year-old, the real teenager. Well, we need to get through.
Yes,
but still, it's we have a common passion on food.
Oh, nice.
He finds strange Asian dishes, and then we try to make them together.
So fun.
Of course, it hurts the budget once in a while when you need to get a teaspoon of something you can only find in a specialty store, which is a box like this. But
and then it sits in your cupboard for 5 years, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but it's cool. Really nice to have some of these things that you can do together. Something which even for a teenager will.
I love to cook. I don't do it as much as I used to because my husband and daughter also love to cook. Yeah. But it's a great thing to share. And I think especially cooking food is a kind of alchemy, right? It's so magical. You take these ingredients and you turn it into something amazing that everybody enjoys and that you share. It's such a beautiful thing.
Talking about eras earlier, I'll talk about a cooking era. Some weeks back, we were having fish and chips, good UK dish, and we usually have a mashed peas along with it, because then the kids will get some vegetables. And I was thinking, oh my God, I didn't remember to unfreeze the bag.
The peas.
I was thinking, okay, come on, I'll just pour it in and then I'll put the blender in it, and I got a very nice pea ice cream.
Yes.
It didn't really work that well along with fish and chips, but later on we created a dish with scallops and prawns, and it worked really, really well. But it's one of these things here: you try something and just do it, and then see, okay, it didn't really work for this, but what could it then work for?
Exactly right. What else could this be useful for if not fish and chips? On the topic of books, what book should we all read or be reading, and why?
In a year, my book. No.
We'll have to come back when it's done.
We'll do a follow up on this. Well, I think I'm looking back here because this is where I have the physical books. I read a lot of sci-fi for relaxation, and there are some good ones there I can send over for the show notes.
When we were talking before we started recording, you said Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy used to be my favorite book.
Oh yeah.
So what happened? What replaced it?
The problem was that I don't remember what it's called, the book, but I can tell you what it's about.
Okay. And then we can put it on the show notes.
We'll put it on the show notes there. The concept is that it's present day, and it actually upholds all the theories of intergalactic travel and things like that. So you cannot do any of these things, but someone in a California lab creates a wormhole, like one of these superconductor, and gets a hole through to somewhere else. That is physically possible. I've actually looked it up because I think
you fact-checked it.
Of
course you did.
And it is actually possible, in theory at least. And the idea was that everything is data. You and me can also be described as, albeit very, very large amounts of data, but
very large data set.
A very, very large data set. And transferring through that funnel there was what is possible to do that connection. And suddenly you have an alien walking around on Earth. That was the concept. But the great thing about it was that it was written in a way that this could actually happen.
Right. It was totally believable.
It was so totally believable, and the characters were well developed.
Right.
So you could, because once in a while that's a little bit of a challenge in science fiction, because they get overly excited about tech, and then they forget about the characters. That's a little bit sad.
They're a bit cardboard. Okay, you'll have to mail me what this I'll definitely put it in the show notes.
From the academics, one of the things that I've been reading up on, like artificial intelligence for business and Executive's Guide to Artificial Intelligence, and some on innovation, because I feel that's where things are really happening.
Right, they're happening super fast. I think everybody who's right now is thinking, oh, this ChatGPT thing, or GPT will pass. It's just another fad. No, I'm sorry,
not at all. And I think that's of course we will come into the valley of despair when people realize that it cannot make the coffee for them. But
yes,
it's. Just look at OpenAI. They got 100 million users within 3 months.
Yes, it's insane.
It's insane. Totally insane. But it's because it creates instant value. And I think the common people have found it now, and it's going to go so quickly into the corporates, and they need to address it.
Yes.
Not tomorrow, but today.
Yeah, and I think we as smart humans can sort of show leadership in also addressing all the ethical conundrums, right? And try to take care of equity when it comes to using AI, all the things. There's some very important questions that need to be asked here.
One of the things which I find super, super interesting in this is that you need to be aware of what it has been trained upon.
Exactly. The data sets.
The data sets. And whatever biases there are in the data sets, that bias is replicated into the solutions that are present.
And the worldview it presents.
And the worldview.
Yes.
If you look at the list of I think it was top 10 large language models, which is the technology behind ChatGPT, I think 6 of them were North American.
Mm-hmm.
3 of them were Chinese, and 1 was somewhere else, but not Europe.
Right.
And it tells us that it's a North American or Chinese worldview that we're setting us up for now.
And probably very male dominated and white dominated. I'm just going to insert that
probably because that's the data set that is out there.
Exactly. That's what we're replicating. Yeah.
And as one of my good colleagues mentioned here some weeks back in this regard, he could easily set up an AI that could choose or select the worst candidates for a job interview.
Mm-hmm.
We just take out all the Mohammeds and the Arabic names, because statistically they would be
they wouldn't get hired.
General, because that's, if you're looking at how many that are there and how many will be able to fit your workplace, does that mean that the best possible candidate is not Mohammed? No,
of course not.
Of course not. And you need to understand this thing about what it's trained upon.
Exactly, right? And so many people need to start understanding that, yes, it's an amazing tool, but it's not a fact or the truth, right?
Yeah.
It is my old field was photography, and I did so many projects around truth and lying with pictures and manipulating photographs.
Oh yeah.
The next thing is, of course, going to be like the video AI, which is a whole nother can of worms. We're not going to go in there, but yeah, creating awareness. But to be able for us to create awareness, we also need to play with it ourselves and know what
exactly. One of the last thing I've played around with just yesterday was I think it's a French tool which does voice cloning.
Oh, I could let it do my podcast.
Well, it takes you speak one sentence,
yeah,
and then it speaks like you.
Okay, so this is like Mission Impossible, right? Where you have the voice activated volts or whatever.
I called up my boss and asked her, can you just say this sentence for me? And she knows me well enough. She said, "No, Klaus, I'm not going to do that because I know there's going to be trouble if come on." Then I could get you to give me a raise. And
oh my God, this is okay. If there's teenagers listening, you cannot do this with your school intercom.
Oh, that was actually a good idea.
Okay, to round things off, I have two questions.
Yes.
First of all, what would you love to tell your 18-year-old self from where you are right now?
Enjoy.
Just have fun.
Because it's going to be okay. I think when I was 18, I was just at the end of high school, just applied for Danish Army service, and that was scary. Also because there was a real possibility of not getting in. I afterwards found out that there is only less than 1% who were admitted into the program that I was applying for. I think if I'd known that before, I might have done it anyway.
You would have done it anyway, Klaus.
Done it anyway.
You would have jumped,
but I would have been scared shitless, and I probably wouldn't have been having the confidence I had going into it. But still, yeah, enjoy what it is that life gives you, because it's
enjoy every moment.
Yeah.
Okay, and traveling back into time, what do you, Klaus, now want to tell? Sorry, what does your 18-year-old self want to tell you now?
Your old part.
No, I can't believe you're this boring. What is their message to you, do you think?
That's actually a good question. Probably. Can it be a question?
Of course it can.
Would probably ask, why did you go that way? Because I wouldn't have guessed it when I was standing there at 18. At 18, I was thinking corporate business and those kind of things. Manager, prestige.
Yeah, status.
And then, yeah, so that's probably the 18-year-old me would look at me now and be a little bit confused.
Yeah, what are you doing, man?
And
how would you explain what you're doing? Because it sounds like your values have changed and your priorities. Or maybe
no, I actually don't think they have changed so much, but they have become they come in focus over time. Like, because the 18-year-old me is still 2-3 years older than the guy who was pushing the car across the road.
Who helped the lady stuck.
So that helping, but I hadn't converted it into what it actually meant in real life at that point. And I think it probably didn't 100% materialize before I said I need to move away from this country where I see people dying on the street. So it has become more in focus.
What is, if you could give some advice to the listeners who are trying to navigate having a smart mind, also having to make a living in the world, and also having fun, maybe raising smart children, any words of advice to them?
I think something along the lines of accept who you are, what you are, and say, well, maybe this I fit within myself. I don't need to fit within the box.
I love that. I fit within myself. I don't need to fit within the box. Yeah. Right. Validate who you are. Don't make yourself wrong for being
who you are. Because the box does not fit for me.
Yeah.
And but I fit for me.
Listen, I think that's beautiful. And I think that is also could be the secret to your success, so to speak, or one of the secrets to your success. Yeah. That you're not making yourself wrong for who you are. You're just like, no, I'm Claus, and Claus Grenbach. I'm going to blow something up. So good. No, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So
it's been a real pleasure.
And listen,
hope someone else out there can get something out of it.
For sure. And where can people find you? You have a YouTube channel.
I have a YouTube channel. I have a LinkedIn. Just connect. I do have a Twitter, but I don't use it that much.
Okay. We will leave a link to the YouTube channel and your LinkedIn account in the show notes. Thank you again. I can't wait to hear about your book and your name. About your book.